yesterday I ran the 40th anniversary of the Riverbank Run in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I ran the same race last year, came back again this year. It's sponsored by my employer, so I get to run it for free, which is really nice. And it's a pretty awesome event because it's the national championship, so it's pretty much a first class event. They're very well organized, lots of support on the course, and just really a good race. I definitely recommend it for anyone. It is a large event, so just be aware there's going to be quite a few people there. There's cameras there, there's elite athletes, and so lots of commotion and stuff like that. But it's a really cool environment, and it's really fun to be out there on the course. And there's little kids giving you five and stuff like that. So it's really, really a neat experience to have. Kind of oddly, this race turned out very similar in some ways to last year when I ran the same race, although I was in better condition then because of the injuries I've had this year. But last year I went out thinking I could do like 6:45 pace, and I ended up with a slow fade and a pretty, if I recall correctly, like my last mile and a half was quite a bit of a fade last year, but I still ended up with just over 7-minute pace. I finished in 1:49 last year. This year I really had no idea what to expect because of my injuries and just kind of getting back into the swing of things now. I had run a 5K last weekend in just about 20 minutes flat, and so that correlated out right about to the same pace as I ran last year for this race, for the 25K distance. So I was like, well, maybe I'll be able to do that. I've been running a heck of a lot of miles. So I was like, well, if anything, I would almost think that my endurance is better than my short distance speed, So I was thinking maybe I'll be able to pull it off. But on the other hand, just being realistic, I was like, I'm really not sure I believe that. So I went out and I was like, well, I'll start off with a 7-minute pace group and just see, how that feels and how long I can hang on to those guys. And so I started out there with them, and I could just tell early on, like, this is just not going to be realistic. My legs felt pretty dead actually last week. I ran a 26.3 mile long run a week ago today, which is Sunday. And then I had a VO2 max workout on Tuesday. And like after that, and having had the 5K race a week ago Friday, like I think the combination of those three things effectively just destroyed my legs. Because I ran like a 13-mile pretty easy run on Wednesday, and then I had basically all recovery runs up until the race on Saturday. And still Saturday morning, like I could feel my legs were not, recovered fully. So, not that I'm making an excuse because I didn't feel really that bad, but, and I also knew that like my fitness is just not quite where it needs to be yet. So, but anyway, so I started out at the 7-minute pace, and like I said, it just got very obvious that I couldn't maintain that. So I fell back gradually. I ended up just over 7:30 pace on average. I did a pretty good job, but once I started fell back, I kind of settled into a realistic pace, and I was pretty proud of myself to hang on. There were a lot of people actually that were walking that I saw, which was a little bit surprising because the weather was pretty good. Like I think it was in the low 60s when I finished, so it wasn't real hot. The sun was kind of beating down, so it sometimes a little misleading, like the temperature, because when the sun's hitting you, that affects you, more so than necessarily the air temperature. So I felt warm when I was running. I was trying to take extra fluids and stuff like that. And but yeah, I did see quite a few people running, and I was proud of myself for being able to hang on and not give up. And like my legs were tired, and I was tired, and like I didn't walk the whole time, So I was proud of myself for that. Making it through a day when I didn't feel real great. The last few miles, I did not feel real strong. They were a struggle. It wasn't like my 5K I ran a week ago where I just felt solid the whole way. Like I didn't eat, my legs weren't really even tired. I wasn't really super duper winded or anything like that, so I felt like really strong. And this race was definitely not like that. I wasn't really struggling, but I was hanging in there. It was a bit of a mental thing of having to stick with it. So yeah, not a great race. It's frustrating again getting back from these injuries. I was so fast in January and February. I was in PR shape. I ran a 129 half marathon, and it's like I don't know what I have to do to get back there. Like, is it just a matter of time? Am I running too much? Am I running too little? Am I running too slow? Am I running too fast? What am I doing wrong? Or maybe I'm not doing anything wrong, and it's just the process that I have to go through. But yeah, all in all, again, I'm not real down on myself about it. It's frustrating. I finished like 8 minutes slower than last year, and it's like knowing how good a shape I was in last year, knowing how good a shape I was in earlier this year. It's just frustrating that like the timing worked out such with this injury the way it did that I couldn't, get my BQ in while I was healthy, and now I'm fighting to get back there. So the good thing about this race is that it gave me a realistic idea of what to shoot for Bayshore in 2 weeks. I'm running the full marathon. I knew there was no way I was going to get back to full shape in time for this marathon, so all along I've just mainly been wanting to finish it and run a good race. And that was my primary reason for running this 25K yesterday, was to see like, okay, for a long distance race, what kind of pace can I maintain, and then what kind of pace is realistic for a marathon, because I really don't want to have a collapse. Like, I really want to run this race, this marathon good, finish with my head up, feeling strong, and like just like after all the injuries and everything, I got back, I finished a marathon. That's not going to be as fast as I'd like it to be. It's not going to probably be a BQ time, barring some kind of supercharged effort on my part somehow that comes out of nowhere. But I hope I can probably still PR, because my PR is really soft because of past collapses I've had. So I'm hoping I can at least get a nice PR and like build my confidence for this fall when I'm going to go for the BQ, and hopefully I can speed up that much by then. If I can get within 10 minutes of a BQ, I'll probably be pretty happy with that, and just know that I have that much ground to make up. So a little bit about the course itself. It's a pretty interesting course. Like, the first half of it is really, really easy. You're on a nice shaded trail along the river. It's nice and cool. The sun doesn't hit you. It's kind of a gradual downhill, and it's really nice. It kind of lulls you into a false sense of security, because you turn, you cross a bridge, and then the hills start kicking in. I tried to warn some of my coworkers about the hills in the second half, because there's some rolling hills. There's one hill that's actually pretty steep, and they're nothing really extraordinary about them, or they're not like super difficult hills, but it's just that thing again, when you're like in the middle of a race, you're running, if you're redlining it, they're gonna catch up with you. So I remember I think felt like I handled the hills pretty well this year, and I remember crossing or finishing the last hill, and there was a guy there saying that was the last hill, and he was telling the truth. So it was a little bit of feeling of victory when you finish that last hill, and like, okay, it should be easy from here on out, So if you're running this for the first time, say next year, just know that those hills, there's I don't know, 3, 4, 5 hills in that back stretch to be prepared for, and save something in your tank for them. And if you have to take it a little easy, slow down a little bit getting up those hills so you have enough left in the tank, do that. There's no shame in doing that. Don't kill yourself running up the hills. A guy that follows me on Instagram, I follow him, local runner here. He said he just basically fell apart running up one of the hills, and totally lost his speed after that, killed his quads, and basically finished a little slower than I finished last year, despite being on a faster pace. So that is, hill running is a skill in itself, and knowing, when it's worth charging up them and when you should take it easy is kind of a good skill to have. So the end of the race, the start and the end both are in downtown Grand Rapids, and you kind of go out and then you come back to the city. It's like I said, it's a real cool environment. There's lots of people lining the streets. There's certain spots along the course where lots of spectators are, so you get a lot of support. There's lots and lots of water stops, and they got gels and oranges and Gatorade and stuff like that. So they do a really good job with that kind of stuff, having lots of support on the course, and medical help and stuff like that. So I saw right as I was finishing, there were two people helping a guy that was just like totally dead on his feet to the finish line. The last few steps to get there because he was totally out. So it was a little surprising to me, like I said, about the people who were walking, that I think it was deceptively hard day to run given the temperature, because I saw quite a few people that were either walking, cramping up, in bad shape at the finish and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting. I myself felt I was a little bit like heat exhaustion-y when I finished. I was just a little bit, I could kind of tell I didn't feel real great at first, and it took me a while to kind of get back to normal. So I felt it a little bit myself as well, but not as bad as some of the other people. So, but yeah, it's a good race. I'd recommend it for sure. It's a big city, kind of environment. So something to look for if you're in the mid-Michigan area, the western Michigan area. It's well worth doing. So thanks again for watching. Subscribe if you like my content. I'll be back talking about Bayshore. I got the Cross de Mont Blanc coming up, and then I'll have Marquette Marathon coming up at the end of September. So those are my big 3 races coming up. I'll probably run a few more smaller races that are sponsored by my work between now and then. But stay tuned for that, and I'll be back soon.